Dear Scare Mail, I saw your ad and I couldn't help myself from chiming in. Considering I hate being reminded of this incident, I had to stop myself from cursing you in this email for bringing back all these ill-fated memories. And yet, it's not your fault that these memories still haunt me, and it's certainly not your fault that, like waves, they strike me from time to time. So, why not tell? How much worse can it possibly get? Maybe talking about it more is the best medicine. So, here it goes. The year was 1978, a long time ago, I know. The summer was coming to an end in late July. Me and my sorority sisters / roommates wanted one last getaway before the school year started back up. There was me, the quiet and shy one, Shauna, the bookworm, and then Regina and Sarah Bell, who were both cheerleaders. Regina's uncle owned a lake house on Lake Champlain, just a few hours from our school in Syracuse, New York. We had all planned to drive up together with our boyfriends, but on the Thursday we were supposed to leave, Terry, my boyfriend, who was planning on driving the other guys, started having engine trouble. We thought about postponing the trip, but Terry insisted that me and the girls go ahead and get a head start on them while they sorted out the car issues. Regina marked directions for him on the map of where to go, and then we ventured off without our boyfriends, thinking they'd show up sometime on Friday. I think back to this moment all the time, because the horrors that occurred could have been avoided if we had just stayed put. We had a wonderful drive to Vermont. The weather was perfect and crystal clear. And despite having some initial trouble getting to the lake house, we arrived at around 3 o'clock ready to take advantage of the weekend. It was shaping up to be the perfect ending to a perfect day. We pulled up the car near the water and turned on the radio, singing along with Stevie Nicks as we drank 2 bottles of wine in just a couple of hours. We were feeling ourselves in the alcohol surely, which is where everything took a turn for the worse. It was starting to get late, and Shauna had just put the roast in the oven. We had a couple hours to kill before the food would be ready, and since we had finished up the rest of our wine just an hour prior, we were starting to get a little restless. Our boyfriends were supposed to be driving up with cards, board games, and more alcohol, but we weren't sure of when they would be showing up. It was dark now. The ladies and I were sitting on the picnic table near the water, chatting and enjoying each other's company, when Sarah Bell came up with a daring little idea. She wanted to go in for a dip in the water in the dark. Shauna thought it was funny and was all for it, but Regina cried out, "And get eaten by Champ? Yeah, right." We all laughed and giggled, still feeling the wine from before, but none of us really even knew what she was talking about. "Who's Champ?" I asked. "He's like the Loch Ness Monster, but bigger and more dangerous." "What, and real?" Sarah Bell chimed in. We all laughed. Regina shook her head, insinuating that it was just a myth. So Sarah Bell said, "All right, well, are we going in, or what?" Everyone but me got back into their swim gear and started making their way into the water. Regina asked if I was coming, but I said no. "What? You're not scared, right?" "I was just kidding, by the way," she assured me. But I actually wasn't scared. I was more worried about the boys not being able to find their way to us. We had some trouble getting to the lake house ourselves, even with Regina knowing where it was. There was a small road right off the highway that you had to turn onto before driving all the way down to find the house. I figured on the off chance the boys did get the car working and were heading right to us, well, I just wanted to be there to wave them in, just in case they did. Regina understood and went ahead and followed the others into the water, while I stayed put on the table, keeping an eye on the road nearby with the driveway. A few minutes passed of them just messing around in the water, and then it happened. "Oh my God!" Sarabelle screamed loudly as they started to panic and flee the water. "Regina, there's something in here!" As she was speaking, Sarabelle's words blurred into pain and agony as she froze in place. I got up and started running to the water to help her out, but Sarabelle appeared to be getting jerked backwards by something very strong. She was hopping on one foot before she became completely submerged. We were screaming for Sarabelle to pop back up. We had no idea what was going on. And then, the worst thing I've ever witnessed happened. A large creature emerged from the water, standing tall. Calling it a snake wouldn't be fair, because it was far bigger than that. It looked more like a dragon with a long, thick neck, and a head like a crocodile, but twice as big. Sarabelle was already halfway down his mouth when he emerged. She was screaming in agony, struggling with one hand as the rest of her was now fully in its jaw's grasp. I looked on in horror as the beast's glowing red eyes locked with mine. In an instant, it chomped down onto Sarabelle's torso and dove underwater, taking what was left of her with him. We wept profusely as we rang the police, who took over an hour to find us. And when they did find us, we were all pale and delirious. A search party was assembled to find Sarabelle over the next few days, but her remains were never found, nor was the beast that took her. They eventually called the search off and closed the case as a shark attack, even though there were never any records of sharks in Lake Champlain. But it didn't matter. Sarabelle was gone forever and was taken in the most horrific way imaginable. I've had a lot of time over the years to think about fate or destiny, almost like everything that transpired was out of our control. If Terry's car hadn't broke down, the boys would have been with us, and we wouldn't have been bored enough to step foot in the water at night. More so, if I wasn't sitting at the table waiting for the boys, I likely would have gotten in the water, too. And it could have been me taken that night, instead of poor Sarabelle. And yet, I was spared, and I had to live with the memory of my best friend being viciously devoured by some sort of monster. There's a damn good reason why I don't swim anymore. Why would you? Whether it's a lake, river, or the ocean, when your feet are in that water, do you ever really know what lies beneath the waves?